Okay, right now we're focusing on the new year, Parsha Shavua, Bereshit, and we are proud, so happy to have this new book that came out by Rabbi David Foreman for Bereshit. You can see our stack here, and we rushed to get this in, air freight, and to my knowledge, I don't think even the publisher has the book, to my knowledge. And talk about publisher, I just wanted to mention something I did mention before actually, is that in Israel, we can match or beat anybody's price, including the publisher price. That just came to my mind as I was looking at this book, knowing that the publisher was out of it. Rabbi Foreman is also very famous for this book, which is one of my all-time favorites, The Exodus You Almost Passed Over. And his other book, two other books, this one, The Queen You Thought You Knew, for Pesach, and this is also on Bereshit, Beast That Crouches at the Door. The Exodus You Almost Passed Over is like, start reading it now for Pesach, because it's so good. And I haven't had a chance to go into this, but if it's from Rabbi David Foreman, I know that it's par excellence. Now, also Bereshit, so we have Rabbi Soloveitchik commentary on the Chumash. In that, the following is that Rabbi Lustiger, he drew amazingly from everything that Rabbi Soloveitchik wrote. He plugged it into the right places in each of the parshas, and the parshot, and it's amazing. It fits like a glove. He gives the sources, where it came from. This is once you think you've read everything you know on a parsha, and then you have this come up, you say, wow, where'd that come from? Of course, that might be the very case with Rabbi Foreman too. Now we're moving on. We have Rabbi Cardozo. He came out with a new book on the parsha. We have a Victor Miller on Bereshit. And of course, in the back there, where we talked about in the Heritage Room, we have all those books, sets of Rabbi Morris Lamb, Rabbi Riskin, Rabbi Sachs. They also have each a book on Bereshit. And I mentioned Rabbi Sachs, and not related to Bereshit, but I can't help but mention now, is this just came out from Rabbi Sachs on morality, restoring the common good in divided times. Now we're at this table here, and I want to share with some things. So here's Rabbi Sachs on Bereshit, and we even have a Barbanel English translation on Bereshit. So we're going to go around this table here and show you some of the things that are special and new. And this one here, Shmuel Phillips, Judaism Reclaimed, Philosophy and Theology in the Torah. So, I mean, it has a skama from Rabbi Sachs, Rabbi Zev Leff, and I personally know that Shmuel Phillips, has been working on this book for years, and he's such a diligent and conscientious person, and he's a wonderful person, and I know this book is fantastic. We have here this book, Letters to Talia. Letters to Talia, in the last 5 years, has been my most recommended book in 30 years of book selling. And in 30 years, it's my second most recommended book. I'll tell you what my first is in a moment, but this is, in the last 5 years, my first recommended. In 1970, Dov Indig is a Hesed Yeshiva student in Keren Biavna. While he's there, a reserve officer asks him, comes to him and says, Dov, you're a Yeshiva Bacher. My daughters ask me all types of questions about Judaism. Can you help out? So Dov agrees. And so starts 2 years of letter writing between Dov and Talia. This is not like, it's the old-fashioned way. This is not like you send an email back and forth. No, this was actual letters written, going to the post office every week, every 2 weeks, every 10 days. She asked beautiful, beautiful questions about men and women's relationships. Oh, here is a picture of Bill Vindig. If the camera's set up right, I don't know to accept that. She asked beautiful questions about men and women's relationships. Eretz Yisrael, Shabbat, Mikvah, Nida. He stays up to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning writing her. And she writes back, and it's just such a beautiful, innocent book. We've sold over 800 copies, and the way it's sold is because I basically talked to as many people I could. It's like I'm talking to you. And I'd be telling one person at the Kupa about this book, and then minutes later in the back of the store, someone's ready to check out. 10 minutes later, he said, I'll take one of those two. This is a must beautiful read. It's for everybody, young, old, religious, not yet religious. It's one of my all-time favorite books. But your curiosity is, well, what's the most recommended book? Because the most recommended book is, of course, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. I say, of course, because so many people have heard of the book, they know Viktor Frankl, and they've been meaning to get the book, and they just out of sight, out of mind. So this book, I've already read at least 4 or 5 times. You read it at different times in your life, and you'll see things that you haven't seen before on each reading. Okay, by the way, we're in Kabbalah section. I see that this book here, although it wasn't on a shelf and it didn't grab my attention then when I was going around, this is an excellent book for beginning to try to understand Kabbalah. You come in, you're over 40 years old, I'll say this book, or if you have a note from your rabbi. Just kidding. Okay, now, this book here, really a wonderful, wonderful read, Biblical Seduction. I don't care for the title. However, it has a schema of Rabbi Sachs and Aviva Zornberg, and so that allows me to display it safely. If it's good for them, it's good enough for me. But for example, there's 6 different stories in here. I read the book of Ruth in here, about 120, 130 pages. I'm sure there's other good books on Ruth. I don't want to slight any of them, but for me, this was the best book I ever read on Ruth. Okay. Then you see some other titles here, new ones. God in the Crowd, and you can see from our camera here, we have other new titles and some older titles. I'll come around on this side and I'll just hold up some books if I may. Just things that we have displayed and we're proud to have here by Rabbi Tulushkin on Jewish wisdom. Okay. Now, we have biography of Sfas Emet.
They sent you a text when you arrived at the store.
There's a book, The Theology of Holiness, by Al Goldstein. You have here, we have here, you have here too. It's your bookstore. Rav Kook. He won some awards for this, Rabbi Yehuda Mirsky. We have meditation in the Bible by Aryeh Kaplan. And here we have, I'm very happy to show you this book called Torah from the Years of Wrath, 1939-1943, Historical Concept of the Eish Kodesh, Context of the Eish Kodesh, Historical Context. So I say like this, I've read Eish Kodesh before, and I didn't understand it in the sense that I couldn't make the connection between what was going on at the time and Pischetzer Rebbe's writing. I just couldn't, and I learned it with my son. I learned it once a week. And so then when this book came out, I was happy to see that the Skama from Congregation Eish Kodesh, written by Moshe Weinberger, he's the big mumcha on this, and he also didn't understand it until he got this book here, written by Henry Abramson. So if you're an Eish Kodesh fan, or a future Eish Kodesh fan, or you want to know more about Eish Kodesh and his writings during the worst period in time in Jewish history, and he explains why. First Eish Kodesh said, we've gone through things like this before, we'll get through it again. Then he changed his text and said, no, this was the worst. Okay, so we have a little selection here. We're going to go over now to another part of it. Here's a nice display table here with some. All right, we're over here near the Kupah, and we have a great selection of books. Tribal Lands is just like that, the 12 tribes of Israel and their ancestral territories. I've never seen another book like that. Actually goes into the psychology of each tribe and how it passed through the generations. And it is, if you're interested in this subject, this is a wonderful book, and it has a foreword by Shani Terrigan, about 7-8 pages, and 7-8 pages in itself is quite informative and moving. Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean, one of our bestsellers for years. Historical book, nonfiction. Classic, Avram Joshua Heschel, The Sabbath. Simple Words by Rabbi Steinsaltz, of blessed memory, deals with about, in the table of contents, about, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 different subjects. Maybe you can see that, I'm not sure. Nature, good, spirit and manner, faith, good deeds, sex, death, envy, mass, friends, family, love, God. Each one of them is, 7, 10 pages. Excellent. This one on Rav Kook really gives you a very good overview of Rav Kook, the Rabbi Schwartz. A big seller of ours, and for good reason. Moving along, we have a classic, Only Man of Faith, and also Rav Steinsaltz's Guide to Jewish Prayer. This one, I'm looking forward to dipping into that. It's brand new by Michael Oren, The Night Archer. He switched from writing historical books, political books. This is about 50 different stories that he wrote. We have Becoming a Jew. This is on conversion. And I want to mention, since I'm picking up this book, it reminds me when I was over at the bookcase, so we have about 5 or 6 other books on Gerim and becoming a Jew. Right behind this, actually, is another, I haven't read it yet, but I hear a wonderful, wonderful book on Ruth by Rabbi Moshe Miller, also has a scum of Rabbi Sachs. Darrow Wine, Rabbi Shagar, Alan Dershowitz, have a couple books here on anti-Semitism. One of them by Rohr Lipstadt, famous for a case against the denier, which she finally won in court. One People, Two Worlds. Very interesting. A Reform rabbi. An Orthodox rabbi explore the issues that divide them. And we talked about this before. Rabbi Lichtenstein's book, By His Light. And another new book by Rabbi Sachs came out at the same time as Morality. Judaism's Life-Changing Ideas, a weekly reading of the Jewish Bible. Once again, this is every parsha, and the theme is life-changing ideas. This book by Rabbi Kahn. It's a really good book for the Shabbos table, just like it says, because it's not in depth, but it's very, very good. If you're interested in Sephardic history in Spain, we have this one, Exiles in Jewish Millennium in Spain, Sephardic it's called. And if this was not so deep, let's say, then you got something really deep over here. Is Jewish Spiritual Technology, Kabbalah by Rabbi Avram Sutton. Very deep. We are blessed that he did his book launch in our shop when it came out. Very, very deep. And we have Open Secret here by Chabad, by Elliot Wolfson. This book, Seeking His Presence by Chaim Sabato, we touched on it briefly before. That's in conversation with Rav Lichtenstein. Fantastic. Okay, coming peeking through over the side of here is a classic book, Sefer Haggadah, in English. Look at the size of this book. We have this book on sale, matter of fact. I'll put it back into the side, I don't want it to fall. Okay, we have Torah U'Maddah by Rabbi Lamb. And this book here, My Hero, a Great Hero of Jewish People, A Light in Darkness. This is a book deals with Janis Korczak and talking about heroes of the Holocaust. In the same Warsaw, I'm going to show you another book. We get over to another table there that is truly a hero also. Comes to my mind. We're going to go over there. Let's see. This. We switch tables where it is. And meanwhile, if you could scan this table here, there's some nice titles we have. There's another book by Natan Sharansky, Fear No Evil, classic. And then I want to take you over to our biography section. Before we get to the biography section, this is relating to Talmud, If All the Seas Were Ink, by Elena Kurshan. And here's our biography section. Just going to move this chair. And let my son, Raphael,